Ever wondered what it feels like to step somewhere no one else has? Places where the wind whispers through untouched forests, where waves brush deserted sandbars, from hidden reefs to misty mountains. These corners of the Philippines are raw, isolated, full of secrets most people never see. Some locals say shadows move when you're alone, and whispers follow you through the trees. Watch closely and imagine being the first and maybe only person to uncover them. If you enjoyed this journey into the unseen, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to Traveling Guide Hub for more hidden wonders and adventures. 1. Snake Island, Vigan Island. One fisherman heard footsteps pacing behind him on the sandbars, though turning quickly revealed no one. Welcome to Snake Island, Palawan's tiny, eerie sandbar so isolated that even GPS often loses signal. A narrow crescent of sand and mangroves, it is known for the sea snakes that patrol the shallow waters. Locals have used it for centuries as a brief stop while navigating between larger islands. Its shifting sands, strong currents, and isolation have kept most visitors away, creating a strange quiet that few outsiders ever experience. As your boat nears the sandbar, the air grows heavy, thick with humidity and the faint scent of wet coral and briny seaweed. The mangroves occasionally rustle, as if stirred by an unseen hand, and the sand near the water's edge can feel unexpectedly cool. Some visitors report sudden chills along their skin, even under the sun's afternoon sun, while others notice ripples forming in calm waters where no fish or object is visible. Time seems to stretch strangely here. Minutes can feel like hours, and the sun's movement appears slower than on neighboring islands. One visitor recalled a sudden splash breaking the silence while walking along the shore, though nothing seemed to have caused it. These subtle disturbances, consistently reported by locals and occasional tourists, give the island an uneasy tension without ever crossing into legend or fiction. Walking along the shore at low tide, the intensity intensifies. Only the gentle swish of water and distant gull calls accompany you. The heavy air, the whispering mangroves, and the cool sand beneath your feet combine to make even a brief visit feel uncanny. It is an isolation that is almost tangible, a tension created purely by environment and human perception. As the sun sinks lower, painting the horizon pale orange, the sandbar shrinks to a thin line of shadow and light. Standing there, listening to only the lapping water and distant bird cries, you sense how few have truly experienced this place alone. And as you step back toward your boat, you might wonder, what unseen watchers still linger on these sands, waiting for the next visitor to disturb the still waters or the mangroves that hide their presence? 2. Mount Mantalingahahan Protected Landscape. A sudden branch snapped overhead, making you freeze, though nothing was in sight. Welcome to Mount Mantalingahahan Protected Landscape, Palawan's vast, remote mountain range. So dense and isolated, even experienced trackers sometimes lose their bearings. This land has been a sanctuary for indigenous Palawan communities for centuries who rely on its rivers, forests, and wildlife for survival. Officially protected in 1998, the area preserves unique biodiversity, endangered mammals, rare orchids, and countless bird species. Its steep slopes and thick jungle make casual trekking nearly impossible, keeping most visitors away and shrouding the mountain in quiet mystery. As you begin the hike, the air grows heavy, thick with humidity. The earthy scent of damp soil and moss-covered trees surrounds you. Sunlight filters through the canopy in jagged beams, shadows shift in ways that feel almost alive. Paths are narrow, winding, and often slippery from constant rain. The sounds of distant waterfalls compete with the soft rustling of leaves overhead. Occasionally, a faint tapping echoes through the trees, regular enough to make you pause, but no bird or animal is visible. One researcher recalled pausing on a ridge when a sudden cold breeze swept through the valley. The scent of wet ferns and decaying leaves left a chill that seemed out of place in the midday sun. A sudden rustle in the undergrowth made him freeze, though nothing appeared. These subtle disturbances, consistently reported by locals and visitors, create a tension that feels real and human, not supernatural. Every step deeper into the forest emphasizes the mountain's scale and solitude. Streams appear unexpectedly, their water rushing over rocks with a sound so loud it momentarily drowns out all other noises. The thick canopy absorbs distant sounds, leaving a profound silence punctuated only by these sudden bursts of nature. Time feels distorted. An hour can stretch into several as you navigate uneven terrain. As the sun sinks lower, painting the valleys with mist and muted light, the forest transforms. Standing on a ridge, listening to the wind in the canopy and the distant splash of water, it is easy to sense how few people truly experience this place. And as you turn back toward the trailhead, you might wonder how many of the forest's secrets still lie hidden, waiting for the next visitor to disturb them. 3. Oppo Reef Natural Park. A splash erupted beneath the boat, startling even the most experienced divers, though nothing visible caused it. Welcome to Oppo Reef Natural Park, one of the most remote reefs in the Philippines, largely untouched by tourists. This is Occidental Mindora's underwater treasure, the largest contiguous coral reef in the country and second only in size to Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Officially protected since 1996, it hosts over 500 species of fish, more than 360 types of coral, and endangered creatures like giant clams and green sea turtles. Its isolation and strong currents keep casual visitors away, preserving the reef's fragile ecosystems. As you prepare to dive, the air smells of salt and seaweed, thick and bracing. The sun glints off turquoise waters, casting shimmering beams downward. The boat rocks gently with each wave, and distant seabird calls mix with the ocean's rhythmic lapping. Below the surface, isolation deepens. Sunlight filters through the water in beams, while shadows stretch across coral walls. Occasionally, an unexplained ripple passes nearby, though no fish seems responsible, leaving a subtle unease. One marine biologist recalled hovering over a coral outcrop when a brisk current swept through, sending a swirl of silty water past her. At the same time, a shadow passed just at the edge of vision, leaving her questioning whether something watched from below. These subtle, unexplained moments, consistently reported by divers and local fishermen, create tension grounded in human perception rather than myth. Swimming along the reef, every turn reveals vibrant coral, darting fish, and occasional sea turtles gliding silently. Yet the reef's size and distance from shore emphasize isolation. Time seems to warp underwater. Minutes stretch as you navigate narrow channels and hidden drop-offs. Even the gentle movement of the waves above feels amplified, heightening awareness of every shadow and sound. As you ascend toward the surface, sunlight glints across the water, and the sounds of the ocean return in waves. Standing on the boat, watching the reef stretch beneath turquoise waters, it is easy to see how few have experienced its full scope alone. And as you prepare to depart, you might wonder how many of the reef's hidden corners still hold secrets, waiting for the next diver to discover the reef's hidden mysteries.
4. Sierra Madre Mountain Range. A branch cracked sharply overhead, making you instinctively freeze, though no one was nearby. Welcome to the Sierra Madre Mountain Range, Luzon's longest and most untamed forested stretch. So vast, even experienced hikers can go days without crossing another human. This mountain chain has sheltered indigenous communities for centuries and remains one of the Philippines' last large tracts of primary rainforest. Its steep ridges, dense canopy, and remote terrain make casual exploration difficult, preserving both its biodiversity and its aura of isolation. As you step onto the forest path, the air grows thick and humid. The rich scent of damp earth and decaying leaves surrounds you. Sunlight filters through the canopy in scattered beams. Shadows shift in ways that feel almost alive. The trail is narrow, uneven, and slick from constant rainfall. Birds call intermittently, but at times the forest falls into near silence, broken only by the faint swish of leaves. Occasionally, a distant branch snaps, or a rustle moves through the underbrush, leaving you questioning what caused it. One ecologist recalled pausing on a ridge when a sudden cool breeze swept through the valley. At the same moment, a shadow flickered in the underbrush, vanishing before it could be identified. The combination of subtle disturbances, consistent with what locals and researchers report, creates a quiet tension grounded in human perception rather than myth. As you hike deeper into the Sierra Madre, every step emphasizes its scale. The isolation becomes palpable with each ridge and hidden valley. Rivers and streams appear suddenly, their waters rushing over rocks with amplified clarity. Time feels distorted. Minutes can stretch as you navigate steep slopes and narrow channels. Even familiar sounds, the call of a bird or the swish of leaves, take on an almost uncanny weight due to the forest's vast solitude. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the forest transforms into layers of shadow and muted green. Standing on a ridge, listening to the distant rush of a waterfall and the wind in the canopy, it is easy to sense how few have truly experienced this place alone. And as you turn back toward the trailhead, you might wonder how many of the Sierra Madre's hidden corners remain untouched, waiting for the next visitor to uncover the secrets the mountain has kept for centuries.
5. Mount Hebok. A low rumble shook the ground beneath your feet, subtle but unmistakable, though no eruption was visible. Welcome to Mount Hebok, the active volcano on Camagin Island that has shaped both land and local lives for centuries. Known for devastating eruptions in 1948 to 1951, which displaced hundreds of families and reshaped surrounding forests, Hebok remains closely monitored but still retains an aura of isolation and quiet danger. Its steep slopes and dense vegetation make trekking challenging, while the volcanic soil nourishes a lush but unpredictable environment. As you begin the climb, the air grows humid, tinged with the faint scent of sulfur and wet earth. Sunlight breaks through the dense canopy in jagged streaks, casting flickering shadows across mossy rocks. The trail is narrow and uneven, slick from frequent rains, and every footfall echoes lightly against the forest floor. Occasionally, rocks tumble or leaves rustle nearby, though no human or animal is visible, creating a subtle tension that hikers often describe as a mix of awe and unease. One geologist recalled pausing on a ridge when a cool gust swept through, carrying the scent of wet soil and faint sulfur. At that moment, a shadow flickered briefly between volcanic rocks, vanishing before it could be identified. Simultaneously, branches quivered as if stirred by an unseen presence. These small, unexplained moments, frequently reported by locals and scientists alike, heighten the volcano's quiet intensity without resorting to legend or fiction. As you move higher, the volcano's scale and isolation become overwhelming. Steep ridges, hidden valleys, and sudden drop-offs emphasize both the beauty and the danger of the landscape. Streams and small waterfalls appear unexpectedly. Their waters rush over volcanic rock with amplified clarity. Time feels stretched, minutes elongate as you navigate difficult terrain, and even the sound of distant birds or rustling leaves seems unusually pronounced.
as the sun dips toward the horizon, casting golden-orange hues across the slopes. The forest and volcanic landscape transform into shadows and silhouettes. Standing on a ridge, breathing in the earthy scent of the mountain and listening to the distant gurgle of streams, you sense how few have truly experienced this place alone. And as you prepare to descend, you might wonder how many of Mount Hebok's hidden slopes and forests still hold secrets waiting for the next visitor to tread their paths.
6. Batanes Restricted Cliffs. A sharp gust of wind swept across the cliffs, carrying the scent of salt and wet grass, and for a moment it felt as if the cliffs themselves were watching. Welcome to the Batanes Restricted Cliffs, the northernmost reaches of the Philippines, where jagged limestone formations rise dramatically from the ocean. These cliffs, part of the remote Batanes Islands, are so treacherous that many areas remain restricted for safety. The Ivatan people have lived here for centuries, building their homes and farms to withstand typhoons while respecting the natural hazards of the cliffs. Limited access preserves both the pristine landscape and its quiet, haunting atmosphere. As you approach the edge, the air grows crisp and salty. Wind whistles through narrow crevices in the rocks, and waves crash far below, sending a fine mist that coats your skin. The path along the cliffside is narrow and uneven, requiring careful steps on the rocky terrain. Occasionally, a loose stone skitters past your foot, though nothing moved it. The distant cry of seabirds punctuates the constant roar of the ocean, and in moments of stillness, the silence between sounds feels heavy, pressing in around you. One visitor recalled pausing near a steep drop when a shadow flickered along the cliff face, briefly stretching across a jagged ledge before vanishing. At the same time, the wind shifted abruptly, carrying a faint scent of seaweed and cold mist. These subtle, unexplained phenomena, reported by locals and intrepid travelers, create quiet psychological tension, a feeling that the cliffs are both beautiful and mercilessly alive. As you continue along the path, every step emphasizes the cliff's scale and isolation. Rock formations jut out like natural sentinels, and hidden ledges appear without warning. Time seems to stretch. Every step along the narrow, exposed trails feels elongated. Even the distant sound of birds or a far-off splash is amplified in the vast open space, sharpening every sense. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the rugged limestone, the cliffs take on an almost otherworldly beauty. Standing near the edge, listening to the wind and waves, you feel the profound solitude of the place. And as you prepare to leave, you might wonder how many of Batanes' hidden ledges and crevices still conceal secrets, waiting for the next visitor to discover them.
7. Balabac Islands. A hush fell over the mangroves as your boat slipped into the shallow channels, the only sound the gentle lapping of water against the hull. Welcome to the Balabac Islands, Palawan's southernmost chain, a remote archipelago of tiny islands and sandbars largely untouched by tourists. Rich in biodiversity and surrounded by crystal-clear waters, Balabac has long been a refuge for migratory birds, endangered marine species, and the rare Philippine cockatoo. Its isolation and limited access preserve not only the natural landscape, but also a quiet, almost eerie sense of solitude. As your feet touch the sand, the air is thick with humidity and carries the subtle scent of brine and wet mangrove roots. Sunlight shimmers across tidal pools, illuminating clusters of shells and coral fragments.
The mangrove roots twist into labyrinthine patterns, creating shadows that shift as you move. Occasionally, a cluster of mangrove roots shifts slightly, as if something unseen passed beneath them. The distant calls of seabirds mix with the gentle roar of waves, and moments of near silence amplify the island's solitude, leaving an almost tangible tension in the air. A local fisherman recalled navigating the channels at dawn when a shadow passed beneath the boat, fleeting and impossible to identify. At the same time, a soft breeze carried the salty, earthy scent of exposed coral and mudflats, brushing against his skin and leaving an inexplicable chill. These subtle, unexplained sensations, reported by locals and visitors alike, create quiet psychological tension, grounded in human perception rather than myth or exaggeration. Exploring further, the scale and isolation of Balabac become clear. Tiny sandbars and hidden coves appear without warning, while tidal currents shift with a quiet insistence. Time feels elongated as you navigate narrow waterways and shallow reefs. Even the smallest sounds, the ripple of water or rustling of mangroves, seem magnified in the stillness. The island's dense vegetation and maze-like channels create a constant awareness of your surroundings, each step careful, deliberate, and attentive. As the sun sinks toward the horizon, painting the waters in golden orange hues, the islands transform into silhouettes against the glowing sky. Standing on the edge of a sandbar, breathing in the briny air and listening to the gentle lap of waves, it is easy to sense how few have truly experienced this place alone. And as you return to your boat, you might wonder, how many of Balabac's hidden channels and secluded coves still conceal secrets, waiting for the next visitor to uncover them?
8. Tawi Tawi Archipelago. A sudden ripple disturbed the calm waters as your boat glided between the islands, and for a fleeting second, it felt as though something unseen had passed beneath the surface. Welcome to the Tawi Tawi Archipelago, the southmost chain of the Philippines, a remote collection of islands and reefs bordering Malaysia and Indonesia. Known for its strategic location and largely untouched terrain, Tawi Tawi is home to sparse communities, mangrove forests, and pristine coral reefs. Limited access and minimal tourist activity have kept these islands largely unseen, creating an aura of isolation and quiet mystery that few have experienced firsthand. As you step onto the sand of one of the larger islands, the air is thick with humidity, mingling with the briny scent of seaweed and the faint aroma of tropical vegetation. Sunlight reflects off shallow tidal pools, highlighting intricate patterns of shells, corals, and stones. The mangroves twist into complex, shadowy patterns along the shore, moving subtly in the breeze. Occasionally, a pebble or cluster of driftwood shifts slightly, though no visible force is present. The distant cry of seabirds and the gentle lap of waves create a rhythm that alternates with moments of heavy silence, enhancing the island's eerie solitude. A local fisherman recalled navigating a narrow channel at dawn when a shadow passed just beneath the boat, vanishing before he could identify it. At the same time, a faint wind carried the scent of wet sand and seaweed, brushing across his skin and leaving an inexplicable chill.
These subtle, unexplained sensations, consistently reported by locals and intrepid travelers, create quiet, believable tension, grounded in real environmental perception rather than legend or exaggeration. Exploring further, the isolation of Tawi Tawi becomes immediately apparent. Small sandbars, hidden coves, and rocky outcrops emerge without warning. Time feels elongated as you navigate narrow waterways and shallow reefs. Even the smallest sounds, the ripple of water or a rustling mangrove branch, seem amplified in the stillness. The combination of dense vegetation, winding channels, and constant vigilance over each step keeps you alert, creating a slow-building psychological tension that feels real and immediate. As the sun dips toward the horizon, casting golden-orange hues over the islands, the archipelago transforms into a series of shadowy silhouettes. Standing at the edge of a sandbar, breathing in the briny air and listening to the gentle lap of waves, you sense the profound solitude of the place. And as you return to your boat, you might wonder, how many of Tawi Tawi's hidden coves and reefs still conceal secrets, waiting for the next visitor to discover them?
9. Mount Canlaon. A faint tremor ran through the forest floor, almost imperceptible, yet it made your heart skip a beat as you paused mid-step. Welcome to Mount Canlaon, the towering active volcano on Negros Island and the highest peak in the Visayas. Known for its frequent seismic activity and dense forested slopes, Canlaon has long been both a sacred site and a source of respect and caution for locals. Its thick vegetation, fog-shrouded ridges, and volcanic terrain create a remote, almost otherworldly environment where nature's presence is both beautiful and formidable. As you ascend the trails, the air grows heavy with humidity and carries the earthy scent of volcanic soil and faint sulfur. Sunlight filters through the canopy, casting flickering shadows on mossy rocks and twisted roots. Every footstep produces a soft crunch on damp earth, while distant rustling hints at unseen wildlife moving through the underbrush. Occasionally, a small rock dislodges from the slope and skitters down, though nothing apparent caused it. For a second, a faint rustle echoes behind you, yet the underbrush remains still. The mix of natural sounds, the distant call of birds, the sighing wind through treetops, alternates with sudden silence, heightening the mountain's quiet tension. One local guide recalled pausing near a ridge when a shadow briefly crossed the trail, vanishing before it could be identified. At the same moment, a cool breeze carried the scent of wet soil and faint sulfur, brushing against his skin and leaving a subtle chill. These minor unexplained occurrences, frequently reported by hikers and locals, create believable psychological tension without invoking myth or exaggeration. Moving higher, the scale and isolation of Mount Canlaon become overwhelming. Steep ridges, hidden valleys, and narrow paths appear suddenly, requiring careful, deliberate steps. Time stretches as you navigate volcanic rocks and dense undergrowth. Even the smallest sounds, the snap of a twig or rustle of leaves, feel amplified, keeping you hyper-aware of every movement and shadow. As the sun sinks behind distant peaks, the forested slopes and volcanic ridges transform into muted greens and shadowy silhouettes. Standing on a ridge, inhaling the humid, earthy air and listening to the whispering wind through the trees, you realize how few have truly experienced this place alone. And as you make your descent, you might wonder how many of Mount Canlaon's secret valleys and forested ridges still hold mysteries, waiting for the next visitor to uncover them.
10. Samar Island Natural Park. A damp breeze rustled the dense canopy above, carrying the earthy scent of moss and wet leaves, and for a moment the forest seemed to hold its breath. Welcome to Samar Island Natural Park, one of the largest protected rainforests in the Philippines, spanning over 333,000 hectares of mountains, rivers, and dense tropical vegetation. Established in 1997 to protect the island's rich biodiversity, the park remains largely unexplored due to its rugged terrain and thick, often treacherous forest. Its isolation preserves both wildlife and an almost palpable sense of mystery, where the ordinary becomes quietly unsettling. As you step onto the muddy trail, the air is thick with humidity, and each inhale brings the faint scent of decaying leaves and damp soil. Sunlight filters through the gaps in the dense canopy, casting flickering patterns on the forest floor. Every footstep produces a soft squelch, while distant bird calls echo and fade unpredictably. Occasionally, a fallen branch shifts slightly under your weight, though nothing apparent disturbs it. The wind sighs through the trees, carrying a faint, cool chill that brushes across your skin, creating a subtle tension that seems to thrum with every step. One park ranger recounted pausing near a riverbank when a fleeting shadow moved between the trees, vanishing before it could be clearly seen. At the same moment, a small rustle echoed from the undergrowth, though no creature emerged. These minor, unexplained experiences, reported consistently by visitors and locals, create a believable psychological unease rooted in human perception and the dense, remote environment, rather than legend or exaggeration. As you venture deeper, the sheer scale and isolation of Samar Island Natural Park become apparent. Hidden rivers, steep ridges, and narrow trails appear without warning, forcing careful navigation. Time stretches as you move through thick vegetation and across uneven terrain. Even the smallest sounds, the drip of water from leaves, a distant bird call, or the rustle of foliage, seem magnified, sharpening your senses and awareness of the forest's vastness. As the sun dips below the horizon, the dense canopy and distant ridges fade into muted shades of green and gray. Standing near a quiet river bend, inhaling the humid, earthy air and listening to the forest's subtle whispers, you feel the profound solitude of the park. And as you prepare to leave, you might wonder how many of Samar Island's hidden rivers, ridges, and groves still harbor secrets waiting for the next visitor to stumble upon.